You've just come back famished from a late spring baseball game, or it's Saturday in the winter and your Book It pin is filled up. Maybe you're celebrating a birthday or just want to take a look at framed black and white photos of Italy while you eat delicious deep dish pizza. Regardless of the reason, Pizza Hut was the place to be in the 1980s and 90s for folks who wanted pizza and also wanted something a little bit more special than delivery from Dominos. No memory of Pizza Hut in that era is complete without the inclusion of the deep red plastic cups that appeared on every table setting at the franchise chain. Just spotting one, as my guest at Banded Brewing, Reed, did, will evoke the sights, sounds, and smells of the destination for a middle-class night out. Here at Banded Brewing in Biddeford, Maine. That's kind of hard to say. I've said it over and over for the last month or so, trying to, drum up some excitement about it. I've stumbled over it a few times, but it does kind of roll off the tongue. Banded Brewing, and I'm here with Reed. And do you come to this place a lot? Or?
Oh yeah, this is home away from home.
You like it? It's a great atmosphere, and it was actually about, I'd say, about a year ago, maybe a little bit less. I just started doing this podcast karaoke thing. And I came here for the very first time, and I'm like, this is perfect, because even if it wasn't the stuff on the table that I brought, I mean, just look around the room. It's just full of the way I see things as artifacts of the past. So this is like...
Absolutely. Look at the pinball machines, the arcade games, the, Nintendo. This is nostalgia.
And nostalgia is based so much in... Usually it's positive memories that bring back nostalgia. So I almost didn't bring the thing that you selected, which is this really dark red Coca-Cola plastic cup, because I'm like, it could have really come from anywhere. But I grabbed it just before I left the house. I got it about a month ago up at Goodwill by the Pound in Gorham. Do you ever go up there?
I don't know of that one. We've got a Goodwill here in town that I go to.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. If you go up to Gorham, it's by the pound, so they just have giant like crates full of stuff that they wheel out, and then you pay for it by the pound. It's incredible. You can find some really cool stuff there. So when I saw that, it was actually the same day I got this weird looking hat that Gallagher would wear.
That was kind of my second choice.
Yeah,
right there.
I'm like, I don't know who would wear that necessarily, but as soon as I saw that Coca-Cola thing, I held it up to my wife, and she's like, yes.
Yeah.
And what did you say when you saw it?
It's Pizza Hut.
That's
their signature cup.
So the question that I chose for us to have a talk about is, what was, and I guess that's a good way of putting it, what was the maker's role or status in society? Because it's kind of sad. Pizza Hut is kind of dropped a little bit in its role and status in society. But when we're thinking late 80s, early 90s or so, where would you put Pizza Hut?
I mean, it was the place. After baseball game, after any sports event, family going out for dinner. For me personally, even into the early aughts, I spent a lot of time driving around on the road. And I knew Pizza Hut always had their lunch buffet. And, those days where I skipped breakfast and I was like 2 o'clock and I was starving, I was like, I'm going to catch the tail end of the Pizza Hut buffet. Pizza Hut was like it was the place to go to get a family dinner. And, they had the book program too, where if you read enough books, you got a free kids pizza.
Yep, you got the personal pan pizza.
And every neighborhood, every town had one.
And they had such a look to them. A lot of them, right around the same time, I think like McDonald's and Burger King, all the fast food places started revamping their style. Yeah. Pizza Hut, for some reason, got rid of those rooftops, like the slanted roofs that kind of looked like a hat. And you could always kind of spot buildings that used to be Pizza Huts because they, were something like a law office or something. And now, they're like, that used to be a Pizza Hut because you could tell. And, but when these cups were being used in there, these deep red, everything, even like Sprite would look the same color as a Coke inside these. But there's something about drinking Coke out of these cups.
Oh, yeah.
It tastes so good, didn't it?
Like chock full of ice, and you would get the pitcher of soda too. And so, you're just like pouring from the pitcher into the red cup. I mean, it's and something about the sound of it too. You
Yeah.
know, when it shakes around and the ice clicks on the side.
You can almost hear the waitress saying, "Careful, the pan's hot." You know,
Yeah,
when she
totally.
brings your giant, that they've
Pan
cooked
pizza.
countless pizzas inside that pan.
Yeah.
And it's just the other thing that Pizza Hut in that era always had were those black and white photographs around the room of like Sicily or they
Yep.
just like different, like some of them were people in like a studio, holding like big pans of pizza or
Yep.
like a broom or something and just looking at you.
Yep,
And I always kind of wondered, like, do they know these people or did they just but every Pizza Hut had that. So while you're sipping from your cup, and I remember it was pretty fun when Back to the Future Part 2 came out around 1988, 89. They had a promo going with Pizza Hut. So they had like, you could get the sunglasses there, kind of like Biff and his gang wear.
Oh, nice.
And they changed those pictures to be like of the future. So it was like cars
nice.
parked, like a flying car in the background. And I'm like, man, they should have kept that. That would be cool. Because then by the time you get to 2015, you're like, it doesn't look like anything like that. you
Yeah.
know? Or I would wear my sunglasses in 2015 to Pizza Hut and be like, see,
Your
that's
sunglasses,
exactly what
which are
you
probably collectible
Yeah.
at this point.
like, it turned out exactly as you thought. So this cup, this status, with Pizza Hut having that kind of status, what does that tell you about American society? Because that's everywhere in the country. Every corner of the country had that same view of Pizza Hut, I think. It was like a Saturday in the wintertime go-to lunch. It was like you said, after practice, after a game,
Yeah.
go-to for, the coach. I think they even use that for a commercial. You can picture a bunch of little
totally.
leaguers. Like, what does that tell you about American society at that time that Pizza Hut rose to such a status?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was, I guess, kind of in a way, almost that first sort of third place that people talk about, which Starbucks really developed into like a concept of like that place you go to that's not home. Like I said, this is my home away from home here
Right.
at Banded Brewery. But Pizza Hut was kind of that place. And I don't know, before that, I guess, there was, local restaurant, there's drive-thrus, but there wasn't, that was like the peak of like chains.
Yeah.
Just like at Pizza Hut, thousands of locations. And, I mean, it was like the big, affordable, filling, something for everybody, like, easy to clean tabletops. Everything about the operation was like meant to be easy.
Yeah.
And made gathering easy, made it affordable. You could bring the whole team dinner, whole team there for dinner. And I don't know. It was a time where it was kind of like replacing your local pizza place.
Yeah.
It was. I think I look back and see that as like when chains really started to dominate local towns.
You wouldn't really
'Cause-
find too many Pizza Huts in downtown urban areas, because they already had their pizza places.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of them ended up either in small towns or suburban, communities that had developed after all of those downtown areas started,
Yeah.
because like those kind of like, one of a kind pizza places that you could only get, in like Brooklyn or
Yeah.
throughout the New York City area. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Pizza Hut's not from there, but they did start out as a standalone somewhere in the Midwest, I think.
Yeah, I think.
And it just kind of like what they offered, everything you just described, matched the needs and the wants of people perfectly as we get into the 80s and the 90s. And, it's like it reflects the needs and then it starts to kind of inform the needs.
Yeah.
And, the Book It program in particular really says something too, where they were trying to, help out education by encouraging kids to read books. And then you get a little prize, for, I remember filling those things out, getting my sticker, and it was a big day.
I think even my daughter, who's now 15, I'm pretty sure we filled one of those out and brought it to the Sanford Pizza Hut when that was still there and got her a free pizza. I mean, it's something I did as a kid, and my daughter's done it. imagine they still do it, probably on an app now,
Yeah,
or like,
I'm sure. Yeah, and maybe that's one of the reasons why Pizza Hut hasn't quite stayed with us, because while it was, pre-internet, definitely pre-smartphone, it had that, because we had a button that said "book it" on it. You can hold it. You can hopefully not get stabbed by it, but also, it's on your shirt, whatever.
Yeah.
It's tangible. It's like, but when everything just goes to being on just the same surface on your phone, I get lost in the minutia of apps. Every place has an app. Every place has that. But with, Pizza Hut was for the sit-down pizza. I didn't know anybody that ordered Pizza Hut. Very rarely.
And I think that's what another thing is. It all became takeout, and like Domino's was the first to do online ordering, and they picked up a lot of Pizza Hut's business. And I think what was it? Papa John's came along out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they're the big one. But a lot of takeout. But I also wonder if back in the '80s, Pizza Hut was kind of like. Was there a suburban local pizza place that they replaced, or were they the first ones to sort of bring pizza to the suburbs?
I think they might have been the first to bring pizza to the suburbs.
It wasn't a huge. I mean, pizza's as American as apple pie now, but was it in the '60s and '70s? I don't know.
Not to the same extent, I don't think.
I don't think so.
I tend to think that it was something that grew up, probably in large part because of these chains like Pizza Hut and Domino's, and I think they started around the same time.
Yeah.
Different places, but they offered similar. I don't think Domino's has ever had a sit down eat component to it.
Good point.
I was just actually picking up sushi last night not from Domino's, right next door to Domino's, and I noticed that they still just carry out and delivery only, but they've kind of dressed their place up to look more like a bistro or they had a chalkboard, with the names of the different stuff on it. But I'm like, it's still Domino's, and Domino's has its place. It's like that. It's Friday night. Parents going out.
Oh yeah.
Kids are staying in.
Need something quick and easy.
Right. You just have there's something about the Domino's that Pizza Hut never could do. But Pizza Hut has its role too.
Yep.
And I think about that era, 90s, when I was growing up in the early 90s and stuff, that even though these are chain places, places like Pizza Hut and Domino's and Wendy's, and there was still a sense of local flair to it. We went to a Wendy's where I grew up, way up in Plattsburgh, New York, so often. Mainly because we had to, because we didn't have a lot of money at one point, and we went there so often that we knew everybody that worked there. They would see us oh, hey guys, how you doing? And that regular status seems to be something that usually only comes with a place like this.
Yeah.
Where there's only one or two of them, and they're locally owned. But I feel like those were just kind of the exterior. Yes, this is pizza. Yes, this is Wendy's. But inside is still. Hey, we're
your local.
We live
people.
next to each other. I might wear. Don't let this Wendy's visor fool you. I'm still one of you.
And they were probably the sponsoring the local t-ball teams and soccer teams and stuff too.
And so much more of the community. And I feel like there's some kind of somewhere in the early 2000s we kind of turned a corner with that.
Across the Rubicon.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was anybody's fault or just the manner of things. I remember when Applebee's and Chili's and those kinds of places started getting real popular. A lot of them went out of their way to get the local stuff to decorate with.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to call yourself the neighborhood grill, you got to kind of have the neighborhood stuff. But and I know that they were still local people working there, but just didn't have that feel that a Pizza Hut did.
Everything, the quest for growth, was probably back then, a franchisee who had one or two locations. Now that, to survive these days, to be a franchisee, you probably have to have 12, 15 locations. And then, you lose that touch as the actual owner and operator. Now you're, owning and operating from a desk in a city with, tons of units out there. I suspect that plays a part because they felt like, it was your hometown bar.
Yeah.
Now it's, which Applebee's do I want to go to in my home?
Right. There's so many of them, and even Pizza Hut. And Pizza Hut's definitely fallen through the cracks in a lot of that. It's not where it used to be, where, like we said before, not ultra recognizable building. I see Pizza Huts now, and they all kind of look like the Dunkin' Donuts next door.
Yeah.
They don't stand out the same way. They don't have that same kitsch to them. It's definitely a shame. But there's one more component to it I think that we should address, and that is if you went to a Pizza Hut here in Maine, or if you went to a Pizza Hut in California, that same red glass is going to be there.
I mean, whoever the salesperson was that got the Pizza Hut account for the red glass company, he had a good decade or so selling these. How many thousands of these red glasses are out there?
It just fits the motif, it just fits the feel of Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
If there's any other color, obviously, or any other, it's tall size, so kids feel like they're being treated like adults instead of getting, a little plastic cup with goofy characters on it.
Yeah.
My son, who just turned 8, kind of seemed offended the other day when somebody brought him he asked for a cup of something, glass of something, and they brought him one with the lid on it and the straw, and he's like, he kind of looked at it, he's like, I know how to handle a cup. Like, I'm not, 4. And, this kind of cup was given to everybody at the table. It wasn't just the adults. So it's the same size like a pint, but it's plastic, so if you have an accident, you're just drying up the ice in the, drink. It's not glass everywhere because it's a family restaurant. And, there's that. We haven't even mentioned, and we should at least, to wrap things up, the Coca-Cola component to it.
Yeah.
That's a status right there. Is that, all they have to do is put that.
Which,
script.
Interestingly, I believe now Pizza Hut's owned by Yum Brands, which is with Pepsi.
Oh, that's
and
right.
I could be wrong about that, but I feel like
Yeah.
if Pizza Hut changed from Coke to Pepsi at some point, that must have been a massive
Because
shift.
now that you mention it, I do have just as many memories ordering Pepsi products from Pizza Hut as Coke. So this might be an imposter for all we know. And look what this glass did. It just made us think of Pizza Hut. It might be from something totally different.
Totally.
But I used to always picture... I remember a couple years ago, I've been there a few times, and have you ever been to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania?
When I was really young,
Because I just went back this fall. I used to live kind of near there, so I'd go there a lot. And a history teacher, so I kind of have to. There's a Pizza Hut like right next door to General Lee's headquarters, and I remember like joking with my friend one time, like just picturing him like it was there in 1863. I was like, I'll have another shot of Pepsi, so like with a long my personal pound pizza, so that was just my General Lee impression. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but it's like in Gettysburg, in Sacramento, California, in suburban Long Island somewhere. It's the same thing,
and it's the same pizza too, and it's the same red and white checkered tablecloths, and like you said, the same building. And I think I actually follow an Instagram account that they seek out and share pictures of old Pizza Huts that are now new something, but you can tell it's a Pizza Hut from the shape.
We might follow the same one. Is it the Retrologist?
What's that?
Is it Retrologist?
Yes.
Yes, he was a guest on my show a few weeks ago.
No
actually.
kidding.
Yeah, we talked about. Speaking of iconic roofs and stuff, he and I talked about Howard Johnson's.
Yes, that's the other one.
And Holiday Inn. But Howard Johnson's in particular had the orange, roof with the steeple on it and everything. It was just like unmistakable. Unmistakable. That's a Hojo's. Unmistakable.
Hojo's.
That's a Pizza Hut.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think I noticed Burger King has gone back. They've reverted back to 80s appearance of their logo, and a few of their stores have gone back because they're going back to, they're getting us back into that nostalgia mode. They want us to be like, hey, remember all those great memories you had there? Like, I know we've added a bunch of weird stuff that we didn't have back then. We promise it'll be the same thing. Come get your pepperoni pizza and it'll be fine.
Totally.
It's not going to be that bad. But it's like, I guess maybe it might be going too far by saying this is like a unification kind of thing. It's like a union of the country where we can all agree on something. And even if it's like moderately priced pizza, hey, we all have that shared memory. I don't care if you're in Montgomery, Alabama, or
Totally.
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
You
It's the
have
same.
been to a Pizza Hut. You have poured the Mountain Dew out of the pitcher into the red cup. Had the cheese pizza. Like that's
You got the
in our
2-for-1
collective
deal,
DNA.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such. I could go on. My brother went to England several years ago. He studied in England, and one of the things that he reported to me right away, he's like, Pizza Hut in England is like a fancy restaurant. He's like, not like super fancy, but it's kind of like more of like Olive Garden level.
Okay.
He said there's candles on the table, and people dress kind of nice to go there.
Wow.
And he was like, it was the weirdest thing I earlier this season for my show, I full linked when I talked to a guy from Sweden about McDonald's in Sweden.
Yeah.
And he said similar kind of thing that people treated when McDonald's arrived. It was, not fancy, but they kind of saw it as, and he wagered the idea of, because it's an international company, kind of exotic, people, kind of approach it differently. They kind of want to, go, like, oh, I want to experience this, as like a more than a big deal because it's from across the.
It's like a
ocean.
cultural experience. Yeah.
And it's just so funny to us because we think of Pizza Hut as exactly like if we dressed in jeans and a t-shirt.
Totally. Yeah, I could have like just been finished in the garden, be
Right.
covered in mud, but like it's okay. You're good there.
And that's a great idea. If somebody was like, 4 or 5 o'clock on a spring Saturday, somebody's like, hey, you just want to go get Pizza Hut
Yep.
for dinner? I'm like, yes,
Yep.
let's go. That's. So thanks so much for being my first
You're welcome, Eric.
guest today. And hopefully if anybody's listening in, they'll be enticed to come on up as well. Pizza Hut grew to be a nationally franchised company along with a list of other similar restaurants in the 60s and 70s. Not quite fast food, but definitely not fine dining. Pizza Hut's attractiveness to its main demographic, Middle America, gives us clues into the makeup of the country in those decades and onward. The middle class was growing, so much so that it was dividing up into different tiers. Speaking of tiers, I'd like to encourage you to visit patreon.com/EPSpodcast. You'll see that membership tiers have been reduced, so much so that the entry level starts at just $3. The top tier caps off at only $10, which is down from $25 a month. Regardless of your monthly contributions and the benefits you get from being a patron, know that I appreciate the support for the work done to produce twice weekly episodes of the EPS podcast, where everything, including Pizza Hut, is a primary source.